What if the habits keeping you poor don't look like bad habits at all? What if they look like being responsible, like being practical, like making smart decisions in the moment? That's the part most personal finance content never addresses. The habits that quietly drain wealth over a lifetime aren't the obvious ones. They're not gambling. They're not reckless spending. They're subtle. They feel normal. And because they feel normal, most people never question them. Today, we're going through 10 of them. Most people watching this are doing at least 3 or 4 right now without realizing it. The most damaging one isn't what most people expect, and when you hear it, you'll probably realize you've been calling it something else entirely. Here's what makes these habits so expensive over time. None of them feel like mistakes in the moment. Each one feels justified, reasonable, even responsible. That's precisely why they compound quietly across years, not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, invisibly, until the damage becomes impossible to ignore. Let's get into them. Habit 1. Spending first, saving what's left. Most people intend to save. They just plan to do it after paying for everything else. The problem is, after everything else, there's almost never anything left. Not because income is too low, because expenses naturally expand to fill whatever is available. The people who consistently build savings don't save what's left. They move money automatically the moment income arrives, before the month has a chance to consume it. The lifestyle builds around what remains. The difference between someone who saves consistently and someone who intends to is almost never discipline. It's usually just the order of operations. Most people get this backwards their entire working lives, and the next habit makes it significantly worse. Habit 2. Treating a raise like permission to spend more. After almost every raise, something predictable happens. Within a few months, the apartment gets slightly nicer, the car gets slightly newer, the restaurants get slightly more expensive. The lifestyle upgrades automatically to match the new income. Economists call this lifestyle inflation. It's one of the most effective wealth destroyers in existence, not because spending increases, but because the gap between income and expenses stays exactly the same. The raise that felt like progress produced no financial progress at all. The question worth asking after every income increase isn't, what can I afford now? It's, how much of this can I actually keep? Here's where it gets more expensive, because the next habit multiplies the cost of this one. Habit 3. Avoiding investing until it feels safe. Most people don't avoid investing because they don't understand it. They avoid it because the market feels uncertain and waiting seems responsible. The problem is, the market never consistently feels safe. There's always a reason to wait, and while waiting feels cautious, it's one of the most expensive decisions a person makes quietly over time. The cost isn't just the returns missed. It's the compounding that never started on money that sat idle for years. Waiting for certainty before investing is like waiting for perfect weather before exercising. The conditions never fully arrive, and the delay compounds. Most people think the next habit is simply bad financial management. It's actually more psychological than that. Habit 4. Paying minimum balances on high-interest debt. This one feels like financial management. It isn't. Paying the minimum on a credit card at around 20% interest means the balance barely moves. Interest accumulates faster than the payment reduces the principal. People spend years making payments while barely closing the gap, and any money sitting in savings earns a fraction of what the debt is costing. High-interest debt isn't a bill, it's a leak. And minimum payments don't fix leaks. They just slow the water slightly while the floor stays wet. The next habit is less obvious, but it consistently costs just as much over time. Habit 5. Spending to signal success instead of build it. Some of the people who look the wealthiest, newest car, nicest clothes, most visible lifestyle, often have the least actual financial security. And people with genuine wealth often look surprisingly ordinary from the outside. Every dollar spent on appearance is a dollar that doesn't compound into something real. The spending feels productive because it produces a visible result. The problem is that result disappears, and the opportunity cost doesn't. The irony of wealth signaling is that it costs the most and builds the least. It's the most expensive way to look like you're winning while quietly falling behind. Now here's a habit that almost nobody recognizes as a financial problem. Habit 6. Making decisions based on monthly payments. Can I afford the monthly payment? Is one of the most financially misleading questions in everyday life. A monthly payment feels small, manageable, but what it hides is the total cost, the interest paid over time, and the opportunity cost of that money used differently. A car financed at $600 a month for 5 years isn't a $600 decision. It's a $36,000 decision plus interest. Monthly payment thinking makes expensive things feel affordable. That's not a feature of modern finance. It's the mechanism that keeps most people financially stagnant. The next habit quietly undoes progress that took months to build. Habit 7. Having no emergency fund. Some people skip the emergency fund because they feel capable of handling whatever comes up. They'll use a credit card. They'll figure it out. What this guarantees is that every unexpected expense becomes high-interest debt taken on during a stressful moment, and that debt tends to stay longer than planned. The emergency fund isn't pessimism. It's the thing that makes sure one difficult month doesn't undo 3 good ones. Without a cash buffer, financial progress isn't stable. It's just temporarily undisturbed. Most people never recognize that the next habit feels like progress while producing almost none. Habit 8. Learning about money without acting on it. This one is more common than most people admit. Watching finance videos, reading articles, listening to podcasts, feeling informed and prepared, while the investment account stays unfunded and the savings rate stays at 0. Consider someone who spends 6 months consuming personal finance content, genuinely engaged, genuinely learning, but never opens a brokerage account, never adjusts their spending, never automates a single dollar towards savings. At the end of 6 months, they feel financially educated. Their net worth hasn't moved. Financial education creates the feeling of progress without requiring the discomfort of actual change. Knowledge about money and action with money are 2 completely different things. One of them builds wealth. The other just feels like it does. The next habit is one of the most invisible forces in personal finance. Habit 9. Using the people around you as the financial standard. When everyone in someone's social environment is financing cars, carrying credit card balances, and upgrading lifestyles with every raise, doing the same thing stops feeling like a choice. It feels like the standard. Take a 28-year-old who earns a solid income, lives in a mid-size American city, and watches their friends lease new cars and renovate apartments on credit. Not following the same pattern starts to feel irresponsible, like they're missing something everyone else already understands. That feeling is expensive, because average financial behavior produces average financial outcomes, which, by most measures, means limited savings, significant debt, and persistent financial stress. The financial baseline set by the people around you is one of the most powerful invisible forces shaping your decisions. Most people never notice it's operating. The final habit is the one that quietly does the most damage, and almost nobody catches it early enough. Habit 10. Treating retirement. Saving as optional until later. At 25, retirement feels distant. At 35, there are more immediate priorities. At 45, the math starts becoming uncomfortable. At 55, the window for meaningful compounding has narrowed significantly. The money invested at 25 has roughly 40 years to grow. The same amount invested at 45 has 20. The inputs are identical. The outcomes are dramatically different, not because of anything complicated, but simply because of when the decision got made. Retirement saving doesn't feel urgent until it is. And by the time it feels urgent, the years that compound the most have already passed. Here's what connects all 10 of these habits. None of them feel like financial mistakes while they're happening. Saving what's left feels practical. Upgrading after a raise feels deserved. Waiting to invest feels cautious. Paying minimums feels like managing debt responsibly. Spending on status feels like enjoying what you've earned. Each one feels reasonable in isolation. Together, across years, they quietly produce a financial life that doesn't match the effort someone put into building it. The single thread running through all 10 is this: the most expensive financial decisions almost never feel expensive in the moment. They feel normal, justified, sometimes even smart. And that's what makes them so hard to catch. They don't look like traps until you understand exactly how they work. That's what this video was really about. If this made you think differently about any of these habits, drop a like and subscribe. We break down real personal finance concepts like this every week. And tell me in the comments, which money habit surprised you the most? See you in the next one.